So this is the lab that I'm producing, and what I wanted to do was have a Windows 2016 Active Directory server being able to log the user's traffic that goes through the firewall. So when you start doing the labs, you really need to have a good system for experimenting with virtual devices. So there's quite a bit of learning involved in getting the Palo Alto up to this stage, and perhaps I'll just talk about how that's set up, and then I'll go into the config that you need to have the Active Directory set up. So let's just briefly have a look at the Palo Alto setup, and really what you need to do is have the interfaces or with the green lights on the link state. You need to have the zones set up. So each one's a data center zone, an outside zone, a user zone, and a visitor zone. And each one of those links up to the virtual router. So you need to have the default. I've put a default router there and put all the interfaces into the router so that it's able to communicate through with the traffic. And each kind of zone is enabling the user identification. So this is the data center zone, which I'm having the Windows 2000 server going through. So this is kind of a key key tick box to have on the interface which is doing the communication with the server. So let's move on to have a look at some other things. So another key area which I just want to go with you is the tags and the address groups. So a good thing to have is some sort of color coding on your lab so that you're able to distinguish what traffic is coming from where and have some sort of color coding really. So if you set up your tags, and then you can go into the address groups and set each interface up with an address. Each interface has an address, and you can tie that in to a zone. So let's move to look at the configuration now on the device which allows Active Directory. So I've produced a blog post which should help you guys kind of go through the setup if you need to do this in your own lab. So let's just go through this. I'll put this link for you in the description down below. And the first thing I want to sort of identify is that the Palo Alto needs to communicate as a service route, and the service route is currently set up through the management interface, and what I want to do is have the service route for the Active Directory going through ETH1/0. So if you go for the blog post and you look at the first item on the list, you get to the this screenshot. This sort of identifies back on the Palo. So let's go for the service routes, which is in the device, and it's in services, service route configuration, and here we've got the UID agent and the LDAP, both set for communicating out of that interface. So that's your first one that you need to do. Going down for the blog post, this is the Active Directory access account. So let's get that up and let's go for the access account. So it's in Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers. And I've set up a Palo Alto user. So this is a member of the COM users, domain users, event log readers and server operators. So that's the next stage. Okay, this is WMI management. So back on the Windows server here, WMI GMT MSC. So WMI MGMT, and it's a MSC extension, and we just click that. You want to right click over the WMI control and select properties, and from the window select the security tab, extend the directory, go into the CIMV2 and do security and identify the user. For me it's Palo Alto, and there's some tick boxes here, which is the enable the account and allow the enable account and allow the remote enable. So that's what you need to have that set up. Okay, moving on to the next stage is we've done that one. Let's do the LDAP server profile. So let's just click into that now. So in device, you want the LDAP server profile. So device, server profiles, LDAP, and you may need to create a new one, but this is the screenshot that you've got identified in there. All these have got to be absolutely perfect. There cannot be anything wrong, can't have it different in any way. So these are real key things to have identified. So if you need to refer to the documentation that I've done, it's got a good screenshot, and you could change the information here to suit your environment. So going down, the authentication profile is next. Let's have a look at that. Authentication profile. Again, you've got to add one, and this is what I've added with the SAM account name there, SAMA account name. So here you've got to input this, and you've got to have the server profile added and make it an LDAP type. So that's in the documentation as well. Mapping. So the group mapping is device user identification. So this is the another one to do. So when you see this data here, you have to click on the edit item here and have this in the correct manner. There's a slash there and the password, and I sort of like to enable the security logging, client probing, cache. I'll flip through those. There's nothing there really. So going back to the documentation. So going back to the documentation now. So the so this is a important aspect I need to go through with you, which is in the user mapping area, and it's the group mapping setting, and if you do that you should be able to add a group mapping setting, and you need to do the group include list, and if you click this part here you should see that this comes up with a list of different folders. So if you can do that and get something seen here, you know that you're able to see the Active Directory server. So this is also a bit like a troubleshooting area. If you don't see these, something's not working properly. So back here on the documentation, the Active Directory access accounts and the MSC, we've been through that. Okay, this is the LDAP server profile, the authentication profile, the group mapping, and this is able to see the folders. You've got the user ID setup. Here I go through it, the device, user identification, and how to click on it. So the LDAP server monitoring, and the last bit is the monitoring here. So back over on the device here and the user mapping, and if you see a connected status, so if you see a connected status here, you know that everything's working fine. But often you'll see some error message there, which is usually in red, and that is an indication that something's not right. So if you've been messing about with this and you've changed some configuration, then that's what you'll get. You'll get an error message there. So if you then go into these settings and you change them, like change the password or change the login or something like that to make it work, and then you come back here and it's still not connecting, that's a common mistake that I used to make. What you need to do is select that area, you need to delete it, then you need to do a commit, then you need to recreate it and see if you can get that connected status working. So that was a common mistake that I used to make, and spent many hours trying to figure out what was wrong and why I wasn't getting this to show up correctly. So my tip there is do some commits, get rid of it, just this monitoring area, get rid of it and recreate it. So going back to the sort of lab here, I hope you've kind of going to get something from this, and it helps somebody who is setting up a lab like this and is struggling with the Active Directory integration, and I hope that that sort of is a benefit to someone. So thanks for visiting, and please just give me a like or a thumbs up, and much appreciated. Best of luck to you all, and I'll catch you again soon. Thank you.